Welcome to Inspire Saratoga, a show that highlights the people and stories that make our home a place of strength, inspiration, and success. I'm Michael Kurkowski, physical and mental performance coach and resident of Saratoga Springs. And in this show, my mission is to connect with the great people who also call this place home, hear about their work and what they do for this town, and share their insights and experiences in health, wealth, and happiness for you, my neighbors. Thank you for joining me wherever you are in town. Let's dive in.
Jon Dorflinger, welcome to Inspire Saratoga.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for inviting me into your beautiful studio here. This is fun for me.
Oh, good. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, no doubt. So we got a chance to connect from some mutual friends. Got to meet you at the event and the work that you're doing in filmmaking. Your journey of just what you've done in your life and just the traveling and stuff, I thought was so inspiring in there. And I know you're from here, so was really curious about getting to know you more and the work that you're doing with Light It Up, so it should be a good time.
Yeah. I'm excited to share and talk about it.
So you grew up here in Saratoga, correct?
Well, yes. My family moved here when I was in third grade.
Okay.
So I was born in Bristol, Connecticut, and then we moved to New Jersey. We're kind of following my dad around to different jobs. So in the middle of third grade, we moved to Saratoga, and we've been here since. My parents are still here, and I still have a brother and sister that live in town, and it's great. It's a great town to grow up in, have a great experience of growing up here, and really what inspired my wife and I to move back here from Los Angeles. So.
Yeah. What was it like growing up here? Like, did you know it was like a special place and like really enjoyed it?
I mean, I think when you're growing up here, you don't realize how special it is. Like, you kind of take it for granted.
Sure.
Because you're a kid. You're just like, this is what life is, and this is how it's supposed to be. But as an adult, and as I got older and could look back, it's like, yeah, this place is awesome. Like a lot of value in this town. You got great natural surroundings. You have access to the Adirondacks. You got a great thriving community. I mean, at the worst economic times, Saratoga tends to grow. Even when we were here in the 80s, it's nothing like it is now. Like, there was Broadway was pretty run down, and it just kind of evolved and grew so much.
When did you see the ascent, like the evolution? Do you remember?
It happened. I mean, it was happening while I was here. So more restaurants, more businesses were starting to open up. The track was drawing people, as it always does. SPAC was becoming stronger. So you could see the town growing when we were here in the 80s to the 90s, so you saw a lot of growth. But when I came back when I started to come back and visit in the 2000s, when I was living in California, I would just see like major changes, major facelifts to Broadway, where a lot of development and growth in the economic sector, because for a large part, Saratoga was a bedroom community.
Right.
So people mostly worked in Albany and just lived here. But now people have thriving careers and industries are here. So it's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's how I experienced, because I grew up in Niskayuna, which is a bedroom community. It's all residential. I think there's even rules about specific commerce that's not allowed in there. So you could go to Schenectady or Albany, but Saratoga always had like an interesting feel. I always thought it was. Did you ever go to Newport, Rhode Island?
Yes.
Yeah. It kind of had that similar feel. I had cousins that lived there, and we would go there for like Thanksgiving and stuff like that. And there's like a quaintness, but also there's like a little bit of a city vibe to it. That's what always kind of I enjoyed about Saratoga. It's got like that little bit of that almost juxtaposition of like quiet countryside, but also you can get a little bit of a city feel to it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of this hidden gem, because it's upstate New York. So people don't really think about upstate New York much. Like when
No.
I'm anywhere outside the state and I say I'm from New York, they're like, "Oh, the city."
Yeah.
No, we're a big,
I always said,
diverse state.
and I always said in New York, like with Manhattan, it's like upstate is like the little brother to the captain of the football team.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like everybody knows Manhattan. That's not from New York. It's like,
Right.
no, New York's a big state. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of other cool, really things that are going on. You just got to find it. And
Yeah,
Saratoga
absolutely.
is one of those gems.
Absolutely. I found a lot of similarities in terms of landscape, in terms of diversity and interest of like California and New York. Obviously, we don't have the California sunshine and the beaches the same way, but we have mountains, we have streams, we have beautiful country, and I actually prefer that over beaches.
Yeah. Yeah. So now the work that you do, you've done a lot of work in, the last 20 years in filmmaking and in the arts. But I know this was like a journey of getting there for you from the time that you were in high school and then left for a bit. Did you always knew that this was like the path that you wanted to go in filmmaking? How did this come about for you?
Yeah, so that's interesting because I'm 47 years old. So when I was developing an interest in film, there was no internet. There was no like cameras. Like my dad got a VHS camera, and that was like an anomaly. Like not almost all my friends didn't have a camera, right? Maybe a Polaroid or something. So when I was in fifth grade, we had an assignment where we had to do an advertisement or a commercial, but we were supposed to. The assignment was to kind of like act it in front of the class and try to sell something. But I asked if I could make a video, and so I did a toothpaste commercial, and with my dad, and my sister was my taste tester. She was, I was in fifth grade, so I was like 11, so she would have been 3, and 11 or 12, so she was like 3 or 4, and I showed the class the video, and I just was blown away by the reaction because I'm standing there like in front of like next to the TV watching everybody watch my video.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
And they're like just like laughing and like so engaged. I'm like and then there was like this electric feeling in me. I was like, wow, this is awesome. I like this. So I didn't really think much of it. Obviously, my interest was peaked at that time. And then in high school, I took advantage of some other school projects to use video. So like Spanish class was a good outlet. And we had to do some sort of advertisement. So I did a commercial for the TV show Cops in Spanish.
Bad boys. Yeah, that Cops.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So go from toothpaste into hard nose.
Yeah, like route. Yeah. But it was just like the promo for the show, and got my friends. My dad was in it, and did like a little voiceover. I had a couple upperclassmen that were doing video stuff, and they showed me how to do like a voiceover because I was still shooting on VHS. Like we didn't have the technology.
Sure.
So I'm editing with 2 VCRs and trying to splice in like footage from the actual show and the stuff that I shot. And then I don't know, same thing, same kind of reaction. The class just went crazy. My teacher loved it. She ended up showing it to all the foreign language classes, the French classes, and the Spanish.
Oh wow, okay.
So it's like, yeah, so those kind of experiences are very inspiring, and especially when it's kind of an anomaly. No one else is really doing it, and it was just kind of exciting. So I knew the seed was planted, but at the same time, like the reality of getting in film or working in film just was very difficult. Like you had to be in LA or New York,
right?
Because that's where the business was. It's where the technology was. There was no film classes. There was no, well, there was a couple movies being shot here, but it's very like isolated.
Sure.
And as a teenager, you don't have access to that.
Yeah.
There wasn't any kind of film program unless you go to New York City, which was really expensive, and
right.
it wasn't really on my radar. So yeah, I was like, all right, well, I'll go to college and figure it out.
Sure.
And so,
It is crazy, that barrier to entry from the like, because
yeah.
film is really, talk about technological advancements. That's really one of the industries that seems like it's changed and evolved so rapidly over time. Everybody
Yeah.
now has the best camera in their pocket.
Oh, yeah.
With like, with film and stuff, and you can just put stuff out so quickly. I remember when my friend, when I was, I think like in junior, senior in high school, was the first ever like digital handheld camera that I saw, and we're like, what is that? Because used to be the camcorder on the shoulder with the VHS tape.
Right.
Then when it went to digital, you're like, oh my God, what is this? And we were doing cinematography film class stuff, and I'm like, oh my, we can do this. And it's like, oh my God, this is so like it made it so much easier. You don't realize, like, no, there was an evolution of a lot of advancement over that time.
And yeah, I mean, and even when I got into the industry, so I worked in Hollywood for 7 years, and when I got in, the industry was still shooting film. So even when I was pursuing graduate school, I was going to go to USC for graduate school for film. I did a summer program there to shoot film because I didn't have any experience with it. So I made like 4 or 5 short films on 16 millimeter film, and just to get that experience. And then, so when I got hired into the industry, everything was being shot in film. And then, as I was at the end of my Hollywood experience, everything had transitioned to digital, and it was amazing, like, just to see that transition. Because when I got into the industry, everyone was talking about digital coming, and then I actually witnessed it happen, and it changed the whole industry.
Yeah.
And people argue the quality of digital versus film. There's still the purists that love the film look, and I agree that there's something about film that's awesome, but the technology.
What's the big difference?
It's just the grain of the film, and there's like a certain quality to it that makes it feel cinematic. Although you can kind of recreate it digitally, but there's something organic about the film that is really hard to replace entirely. But I mean, the technology is advancing so much that and honestly, like, audiences are not thinking about that. The majority of audiences, they just want to be absorbed into a story. Honestly.
Sure, I get it. I mean, it's like the people who still love vinyl.
Yeah, exactly.
And there is something to, like, thinking of that, like with music, like you listen to like a vinyl track versus like something that's put out digitally, like there is almost like another layer of depth and emotion, to it that you can feel. I don't know if that's kind of the same thing from film to digital in movies.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Except like, unless you're like Quentin Tarantino or Scorsese, like a filmmaker is going to have a hard time convincing a studio to go to film. Because it's far more expensive,
right?
Because you have to process it, and you can shoot only limited amount. Where like digital, you can shoot all day long.
You're right.
And then you don't. There's no processing. You have to color it, but you have to color film anyway. So
right, yeah. So you worked in Hollywood for 7 years. When did that come about? Because you traveled for quite a bit, right?
Yes,
after high school, and then
eventually after college.
After college, okay.
So. When I got back from traveling, I was actually going to go to Norway to do a program, and so I was kind of continue my traveling because I had this like travel bug, and just wanted to see the world, and it just my mind and heart and soul was just expanding every time after coming from Southeast Asia. And then so 9/11 happened, and it shut down my plans to go to Norway because it literally happened like 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave. And so I'm like, okay, well,
what was in Norway?
It was like I can't even remember, honestly. It was like it was like an arts program. I think it was mission related because I was working with a lot of missionaries at the time. But I honestly, I can't remember. And then so then my whole mind frame shifted. I was like, all right, well, I want to get into film. That's what I want to do. And so I stayed around the area for that year, working, saving up money, and I went out to USC for a summer. to build up my portfolio, getting ready to prepare to go to graduate school at USC for filmmaking. And anyone who understands the film program at USC, it's like Harvard for filmmakers. It's
Really?
gorgeous. Like, it's a great, amazing film program. Plus, it has a gigantic network that helps your career.
Sure.
I mean, you can go to the student library and watch student films from George Lucas and Ron Howard and all these filmmakers that and it's really interesting. And they're right there in LA, so they have access to Hollywood, and you kind of have this like connection to the industry through that program. So, anyways, I was gearing up to go there, working on my application. Came back to Saratoga to kind of make that move. And the movie Seabiscuit was filming in Saratoga at that time. So I was like, oh, cool. I'll put my resume in and see what happens. And I had USC on my resume. I got like 3 calls right away. And
just from the name brand.
Yeah, because they saw USC. They're like, oh, yeah, this guy is legit. So I ended up, I think I got called by production and costumes and locations. I ended up working with the location department. And it was like the hardest 2 weeks of my life.
Really?
Yeah, it was grueling, like grunt work. But
was that the first big production that you were a part of?
First big production I was a part of. Getting 4 hours of sleep, getting up at like 4 in the morning, working till like 10 o'clock at night, and then doing it again for 2 weeks. And but you know what, I was excited. I wanted to be a part of it, and I saw this as an opportunity to like kind of be a part of the industry that I wanted to be a part of.
Sure.
And
did you think that was like gonna be the experience? You knew it was gonna be a lot of grunt work, or was that kind of like a big kind of surprise of like, oh, I didn't know how much stuff goes into putting together a big production like this?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely an eye-opening to that experience. I knew it was gonna be hard work and long hours, so I kind of was aware of that. And I didn't care. Like, I have a good work ethic, and I just wanted to like do the best job and kind of like help them however they needed me. And I have a quick story. My first day, I walk on set, and I'm waiting for my boss, and I see a bunch of we're on the backstretch of the track. So there's some set dressers, and they're decorating the backstretch to make it feel like from the 1920s or 30s. So they're doing all these period things, and I saw this one guy kind of like taking some ropes and rolling them in the mud to kind of make them look dirty and used. So I went over and started helping him, and he's like, "Don't do that. Put it down." I'm like, "Okay." He's like, "This is a union job, so you have to like, you can't like do our job."
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So that was a quick introduction of like the union work in the industry. But anyways, yeah, it was a tough 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks ended, my boss came to me. He's like, "Hey, I could use some help in Kentucky if you want to travel with us." I was like, "Hell yeah!"
Okay.
So and once I got to Kentucky, it was a completely different experience. Like, I was like a part of the team. I was being put up in hotels, getting per diem.
Okay.
I had my own grunt workers that I oversaw, and I would help them, but like I made sure that they were getting the work done, and it was like a great experience. And then the other crew members from LA would like come up to me and like, "Weren't you a local hire in Saratoga?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "This never happens."
Okay.
Never, like, no one travels.
Yeah. What was it? Did like you just see like the work that you were putting in and like kind of stuff? Like, was that the trajectory of
Yeah,
how
he
you
just
kinda
saw
got
my
this?
work ethic. He saw the value I could bring to the team, and he just brought me along. And then after the 2 weeks in Kentucky, he said, "If you come out to LA, you have a job." I was like, "Okay." In the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, my girlfriend wants me to move to New York to live with her.
Right. Yeah.
So that was a tough
Sophie's
call.
choice.
Yeah. It's like, honey, I think I'm moving to LA.
Yeah.
And I did. And that was a tough blow for her, but she had just graduated from college and was looking at grad schools, and ended up going to graduate school at USC for social work, and worked out, and she's my wife today. So
well, there you go.
Yeah.
It all worked out in the end. Yeah. So
Yeah.
what was the specific job, kind of what was the stuff that you were doing when you moved to LA in film?
So I worked a lot in locations. So a couple movies I worked with the same boss, Mike Fantasia, and he's a location manager. And so our job essentially is you manage the job site. So it could be in the middle of the woods. It could be at a commercial building.
Yeah.
It could be at a private home. It could be at a train station, anywhere. Wherever that job is, then it's our job to set that location up to be a full functioning professional working environment. So there needs to be a space for hair and makeup. There needs to be a space for catering and a tent for everyone to eat. There needs to be a space for all the trailers, for the actors and wardrobe, everything. So you have to figure out all those spaces. I worked on this one movie, Memoirs of a Geisha, and
great movie.
Yeah. So 90% of that movie was filmed in LA or in California.
Okay.
We spent a lot of time on a horse ranch in Ventura, just outside of LA, north of LA. We built Kyoto, the city of Kyoto. Yeah, it was. I don't know if it still is, but at the time, it was the biggest Hollywood movie set in history. It was gigantic. It was a full city, or I think it was probably equivalent to like a couple city blocks.
Okay. Big stars too.
Yeah. So Michelle Yeoh and
I had the biggest crush on Zhang Ziyi.
Yeah.
From Crouching Tiger.
Yeah. So that was It was soon after Crouching Tiger that she was doing that movie, and so one of the issues that we dealt with, and this is something that we kind of deal with in locations, that on location with almost every movie, is weather. So for the time we were shooting Memoirs of a Geisha, before production even started on that location, we had torrential downpours, and where the set was built, we're experiencing a lot of erosion, which was jeopardizing the set. This is like a $20 million set. So it was our job to come up with some erosion
stop the weather.
Yeah, so we're like sandbagging and redirecting water and saving the set.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I had to dig a trench. Me and my partner at the time had to dig a trench to drain the water away from the set. So there's pictures of me like covered in mud, and
that's so crazy. Yeah. You think like when you're young, like, oh, I want to like make movies and like it's not realizing like, you might have to dig a trench to save the set of what they did. That's part of the job of everything that puts into everything.
Yeah. Yeah. So and then there was a couple other movies I worked in production. Worked in the production office, which is like an office job. And basically you are fielding all the communication between the producers and the rest of the crew. So you're making sure that the crew has everything they need, helping setting up meetings or communicating the schedule, and so you're just kind of the support for the entire production.
Yeah.
From the office perspective.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that, like, everybody loves movies. I love movies and stuff. And you see the final product of there and be like, wow, like there's so much that comes in. And then you see like these budgets that come into, and you don't even realize like where all that money goes, to. What was the biggest things that you saw of getting in, of what it takes to make a movie? That was like the big, like, wow, I didn't realize like all these things needed to happen in order to put this stuff into production and make a final product.
Well, you know, it's movies are, you know, a direct line of expression from the artist. So every movie is different. That's kind of what I love about the business is that your job is different every day.
Hmm.
You don't know, like you're gonna have different set of problems and challenges and but like some of my friends would say at set when it got really stressful and tense, they'd be like, "We're not curing cancer. We're just entertaining, right?"
Yeah.
So um, when you go in with that perspective, you, you realize like what we're doing is not so important,
Hmm.
but but it's fun and it's
Yeah.
exciting, and being a part of a movie is really cool, and just then to see the end product, you feel very proud
Hmm.
to have been a part of it and see your name in the credits. So that's cool. Um, but at the same time, you also see a lot of waste of money.
Right.
Like oh my god, I couldn't believe some of the things I saw. But like they spent $100,000 to recreate a cherry blossom tree in California, where cherry blossom trees don't
Wow. Right.
exist. And so
Yeah.
they brought in these artists and
Hmm.
natural branches, and they put this tree for 30 seconds of film.
Right.
So that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
So that's incredible. But yeah. I don't know if I'm answering your
Hmm.
question. Maybe you can clarify what you were asking.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's so many different things from the logistics of it, of like the artistic expression, of personalities that are like coming together. Like, there's so many moving parts
Yeah.
that
Oh
need
yeah.
to, like, come in to make, a film.
Yeah.
And as a consumer, we just see the final 2 hours of
Yeah.
it, not realizing the months beforehand from there. Like the things that were like, wow, I didn't realize that, like, that was a piece of like what needs to happen in order to make it of coming in. Those are kind of the things that I was kind of
Yeah.
asking about.
So
Hmm.
it's funny because I was just looking at pictures of Seabiscuit yesterday,
Hmm.
behind the scenes that I found because I was cleaning out my office, and I was just going through these pictures, and it's all behind the scenes
Hmm.
footage, and the thought that came to mind was um, a lot of money was being spent for a lot of people to stand around, but every person that's standing there was needed to make this movie happen.
Right.
So, for example, every actor has a stand-in.
Hmm.
That's all they do. They just wait around on set, and when they're doing a camera setup, they go and stand where the actor is supposed to
Hmm.
stand, so the celebrity, the star, doesn't need to be there, so they can frame up the camera,
Right.
get the camera shot the way they want to get it, and that's all they do. But
Hmm.
they're so needed. You need that
Hmm.
because you want the actor to be focused and to just be able to come into character and hit their lines and move along so they can move on to the next shot.
Hmm.
It takes anywhere from an hour to 2 hours to set up a shot.
Right.
So you don't want the celebrity or the actor waiting or and sitting on camera. You want them to be fresh, getting ready to go,
Hmm.
because a lot of times they have to deliver with like emotion.
Right.
So that's just one example. But my job. Well, there's a saying in Hollywood: "Hurry up and wait," because when you're needed, they need it done now. But when
Okay.
it
Yeah.
but when your task is done, then you just wait around for the next time you're needed.
Right. What was that line? I think Bill Burr said, he's like, what is it like working on a movie? It's like being in a line at the DMV with a bunch of celebrities.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. But I can see that. I mean, like you do, like if that's your job, like that's your spot. And yeah, it's like when you're called up, go do your job the best that you can. And then
yeah,
now it's your job to just wait until you're needed again
yeah,
on there. And when you're
yeah,
talking about a big production and like business from that, I could totally see,
yeah,
how that's powerful.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, it's amazing that movies get made because
Yeah.
they're so expensive and they're so hard, and then nobody's really figured out the formula on what's gonna sell. That's why you see a lot of
Yeah.
movies made today, or
Mhm.
for a couple decades now, that are based off of like comic books or
Yeah.
toys uh, or books.
Yeah.
Books were big for many, many decades, largely because there's a built-in audience. So, and it
Right.
feeds on people's memories, and they reminisce of that. But they like to see those imaginations come to life. You know,
Right.
maybe they're tied into a book, a story, or a toy or something, and to see it come to life is exciting
Yeah.
for audiences.
Why do you think that is? Like, that's an interesting topic of like, there's still not that code of like knowing what's going to succeed or not. It's still kind of like a crapshoot. Like, why some things are, they don't have a lot of expectations, then all of a sudden they blow up into this cult classic, or things that are supposed to have this, this looks like a home run easily, and then it turns out to be a strikeout. Like, what do you think? What do you think that is? Do you have a theory about that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's risky.
Mm-hmm.
The movie business is very, very risky. So, and it's expensive. So, if you're gonna invest millions of dollars, like a $20 million movie is a low budget movie. That's
Isn't that
$20
crazy?
million.
Yeah, I know, that's nuts.
So it was actually really inspiring to see Nora win at the Oscars because they spent $6 million, which is nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. But movies are a huge financial risk,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of these studio movies that get made for hundreds of millions of dollars, what people don't realize is the studio is spending hundreds of million dollars to market those movies.
Right.
So they're doubling down on that risk. So if that movie doesn't perform, they're in the red quite a bit. So for them to take a risk on an original idea, it has to be a fantastic idea that can attract a huge audience.
Sure.
And that's hard to do, and a lot of people don't want to take that risk, but they're willing to take a risk on a Marvel movie or a Star Wars movie or something that has that built-in audience where they know that they probably have a good shot of breaking even. At
Right,
least.
yeah.
And maybe selling some merchandise on top of it.
Yeah. Have you seen that like evolution of how things are? I mean, you've been doing this for 20 years now, so you've seen now the birth of streaming, everything's streaming now versus it used to be DVDs were like a huge thing when I had.
I have a whole collection of DVDs.
I still have like boxes of them, which I have no idea what I'm going to do with. They just sit in a closet from there. But it's like, it seems now that specifically like in mainstream, I don't want to use the word safe, but it's almost just like, we're pretty much know that this is going to have a built-in audience, like a comic book. But you've seen that started to, it seems like it's declining now, or like they're changing that up from there, where independent movies like and Anora and stuff, that's like a gamble for somebody to really jump on now. Have you seen a shift and change in that in your career from like when you first started into kind of how you see the film industry now?
In terms of people taking more risks.
Mm-hmm.
So no, not really. I mean, what you see is pretty much par for the course. So like, and then I feel like the 90s were so awesome for movies because all these amazing filmmakers emerged, like Quentin Tarantino and Wes Anderson and Paul Thomas Anderson and Darren Aronofsky,
David Fincher.
Fincher. They all kind of emerged at the same time. And what's unique about them, all those filmmakers, is that you can sit down and watch one of those movies and you'd be like, yeah, that's a Wes Anderson movie. Yes, that's a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Yeah.
That's a David Fincher movie. Like you just can see their voice on screen. And when you can get to that level and you do it through the independent film route, you make a hit movie or you make a movie that people really resonate with, then people want to invest in your voice.
Right.
So you see that today. So I'm forgetting the guy's name. Sean Baker, who made Anora. So he's rising star now. Like people are taking notice of him because he's made some pretty interesting films, and then now winning an Oscar, like his name's out there.
Right.
Like, so we'll see. I'm sure someone's going to want to invest in him.
Why do you think that was such a golden age of like all those guys like at one time that was coming up? Like who is it? Catherine Bigelow was in there too. Like when she did stuff. Like, do you think there was something specific about that almost was like such a breeding ground for such powerful makers?
It was unique. I know that like I think Wes Anderson, Tarantino, Aronofsky, and Paul Thomas Anderson. Those four guys went. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure went through the Sundance Institute.
Okay.
Where they help you write a script and help you produce your first film. So That's where Reservoir Dogs was born. That's where The Hard Eight was born, the Paul Thomas Anderson first movie. Bottle Rocket, that's Wes Anderson's first film. Requiem for a Dream was Aronofsky's first film. So those
crazy movies.
yeah. So and like so that catapulted their careers. So I think there are filmmakers out there today that are like that. I mean, what's his name from did Get Out and Nope.
Jordan Peele.
Jordan Peele, yes. I mean, he's such an amazing voice.
Yeah.
But
again, like such a signature on the movies where like you cannot even see who directed and be like, yeah, that's his
Peele.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fascinating.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I think but you can't get there by selling an original story to Hollywood. You can't do it. It's just they won't do it. It's too risky. You have to do it independently. And to establish yourself as an artist and a voice.
Right.
And then you have success in that way, then people are more likely to take interest in what else you can do and invest in it.
Yeah.
Because you're already building an audience, right? You put out a film that people like, so you already kind of create this following. It's like, okay, what else can this guy do? Oh, let's put money into that.
Sure, yeah.
That's how Pulp Fiction got made. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because it's definitely more challenging, and that could be like like that's not fair and stuff. But I also think like that's almost a blessing because it probably like weeds out just the ones that aren't really into it, the ones that really have like a passion and idea and want to put that effort in. It's a little bit more work to get that done now. You probably have to get privately funded or start this independent and build it up from there. So it's going to be a lot more like blood, sweat, and tears. So like the cream rises to the top a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. Cream. Yeah. Yes, you're absolutely right. But today is so different. Yeah. Like there's so many film festivals out there and so many ways to get your film seen and watched. And so it's a much different landscape than when I was in Hollywood and where it seemed like, you had Sundance, you had like the big festivals and some tiny ones, but now it's like massive.
Yeah.
Like there's thousands and thousands of film festivals. So you can kind of get some momentum going. If you make a film, put it out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because
Are there some festivals that you've gone to that you really enjoy?
I haven't. So I'm gonna start putting a film out that I made, and just to some smaller festivals. But I haven't attended a lot of festivals. I've attended a few and I enjoy them because it's like you see all these like cool, interesting films that you would never ever see, and it's a fun experience. So go support film festivals.
I love it. Yeah. So now the work that you do, you founded Light It Up Media, which is really like it's a mission-driven business to help businesses and nonprofits really get their story out. How did this idea of putting this together come about for you?
Yeah. So it was a journey. Definitely a journey to get here. When I moved back here and teaching didn't work out for me, I started the Saratoga Film Academy and was teaching kids how to make movies. And that was going very well. And it was also kind of drawing a lot of attention to me where people were approaching me to make stuff for them. So I was like, oh yeah, sure. That's kind of what I want to do. So it's kind of evolving into this production company too. And when COVID happened, all education kind of shut down. So I couldn't really do the Film Academy, but production continued to like pick up. And then, so I spent the first part of COVID writing a screenplay for a couple. They hired me to adapt the husband's book into a screenplay. And then I was hired to do a feature documentary, my first feature film. It's called The Art Show. It's about doctors turning to their artistic passions during COVID to kind of alleviate stress.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and one of the doctors, the doctor who hired me to do this, Steve Offord, he's been a long time, moonlighted for a long time as an artist, and put on a big art show, this very eclectic, trippy, immersive art show out in his home.
Okay.
So I kind of documented the whole process of him and his colleagues preparing for this art show that had art and music, and it was very cool. So that's kind of how I spent COVID. But when I came out of that, it took me 2 years after COVID to finish the film. I was like, well, all right, well, what am I going to do now?
Right.
And so I was like, well, let's get the Film Academy going again. Now people are going back. The world's opening up. And that was kind of challenging. I couldn't quite find the right partners, and because I needed technology to accommodate a class, and I had like production gear, but I needed computers. That was the big thing, and a space. So trying to find those two was a challenge, and I was debating whether to go nonprofit or stay for profit. And at the end of the day, but also I was doing production stuff too. So I was like, I was sitting with a colleague of mine and telling him all the things I'm trying to do. He's like, I think you're trying to do too much. Why don't you just do production? I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. So then
sometimes it takes a good friend just to put it into perspective.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. You know, like that's what I love. That's where my passion is ultimately. And I looked at my body of work, and I've worked with a lot of nonprofits. I've done a few films on rare diseases. I've done a lot of work with Saratoga Plan. So and you know, like the reason why I even wanted to get into film in the first place was to help shape the culture, like offer perspective, or move people to feel something, or just enlighten people on our humanity. And I saw this as an opportunity to say, okay, I might not be curing cancer, but maybe I can make a difference, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have a quote that I love, which is, the right story doesn't just inform, it mobilizes.
Yeah.
Yeah. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I think what I love about film, it speaks to you on many different levels. So unlike, say, a novel, because I think film and novels go hand in hand, where novels when you get immersed into a novel, your imagination runs wild. So a well done film can pique your imagination as well, but it also can do it from an audio perspective with music and sound. It can do it from a visual perspective, and it's engrossing you into a story where you're feeling something much deeper and inspiring. And so if I can inspire people to take action, or get involved, or grow their community, I think we're going to be better off.
Yeah.
I think I've been thinking about this a lot. We are natural beings, just like on this planet. We're natural, just like the trees or the animals, and we're part of this ecosystem. So as much as we are a part of the ecosystem of the natural surroundings, we've created an ecosystem amongst ourselves. And when the powers to be start to create this divisiveness amongst us, it weakens us. So I felt like this was a time to kind of like focus on the change makers, people that are making a difference, to bring people together, to build community, to strengthen us. Because I think now more than ever, we need to be united. We need to focus on the ones doing the work and the change, and be a part of it.
Yeah.
We can no longer be on the sidelines anymore. Because if we want a better world for our children, or even tomorrow,
Right. Yeah.
we need to be a part of it. So I'm hope my goal with my company, Light It Up Media, is to be a part of shaping that culture.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful. It's such an important message, Jon. And I think we do that through story. Like, I think story is our most powerful, it's the oldest form of human connection, right? It's like before there was written word, people were telling stories, and that's how we pass down wisdom from generation to generation. And it is like, I love books, I love reading, but it's a harder medium to consume. It does take the imagination. There's a different element to it. And with film and connecting the story with music, with audio, and getting deep, from the surface down from there, it has the power to shift you. I mean, probably everybody listening to this, there is a movie in your mind that when you saw that probably changed how you view life, and probably changed how you act from there. And it doesn't need to be just a Hollywood production with Christian Bale or Chris Hemsworth. Like, there's people right in our own area who have powerful missions. So if you can take that story and put it into the context of a cinema and film, that's a really powerful medium to get your message out.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the first things I do with students when I was teaching film was I would show them a picture of cave drawings from the primitive time. Those cave drawings were stories, and those were stories of survival. And that's how they taught and informed the tribe to survive, how to protect, or, how to capture the food they needed to survive. So it's really fascinating. And it hasn't changed. It's in our DNA. We as human beings naturally navigate to story and put our understanding into a context of story. So I do this other thing with students where I show them this very simple animation, and it's these three triangles in a box, and there's a large triangle and two smaller triangles, and it looks like the triangles are trying to harass the big triangle, and then the big triangle comes after them, and looks like they're trying to causing a turmoil. So I ask the students what the story is, and I get the most interesting answers, from like a jealous boyfriend to like an abusive parent.
That's crazy.
To an angry neighbor.
It's like a Rorschach motion test.
And that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It's a psychological test. It's nothing. It's just shapes moving around in a box, and we're creating stories, and that's what we do as human beings. So if you can tell the story to help shape that understanding, it can be very powerful. There's a technique that's used. I was watching a behind the scenes editing video on Severance, a great show, and I taught this technique to students, but he brought up how he uses the Kuleshov effect. The Kuleshov effect is like how when you pair two images together, it creates meaning. So Hitchcock has a great explanation of this. So you see Hitchcock come in the frame, he looks at something. You cut to a woman and a child. You cut back to Hitchcock and he smiles. Now, he keeps that same piece of himself at the beginning and the end, but in the middle, he removes the woman and child and puts a woman in a bikini. So now, when you see that meaning, he's a dirty old man.
Wow.
So that's the power of the Kuleshov effect, and it's used all the time in film, but it shows you how you can kind of shape and manipulate meaning.
That's so interesting. I remember there was a thing from Rory Sutherland who talked about if you see a man staring out a window and he's just there with nothing in his hands, he looks like a psycho. Yeah. But if you give him a cigarette and like a small glass of whiskey, now he's a philosopher. And it's like just the little difference of just the shape from there. It's like psychologically triggers into our mind. And that's where I thought there's interesting and power of short films too. I think there's, everything now is, an hour and a half to like a 2.5 hour movie. And that's like a lot. But from like things like the Academy Awards of seeing short films, like the depth of message that you can get in like 5 to 15 minutes is even more powerful. I've started listening and seeing more of those. I was like, wow, there's a lot of interesting substance to it. It's the same as like you don't need to read, War and Peace, which is 1,000 pages. There's some books out there that are 100 pages that could change your life.
Yeah, I'll do even better than that. Commercials.
Yeah.
I've cried at many commercials. I'm like, wow, it's just like the power of that message that can be packaged in 30 seconds or a minute. Yeah. You don't need a lot of time. You just need the right story, the right imagery, the right tone to convey that message.
Oh,
And you know, you can do it. You can pack it in really
yeah.
tight.
Do you see the commercial with the grandpa with the kettlebell, and he keeps lifting it up so he could lift his granddaughter at the end to put the star on the Christmas tree?
Oh, nice.
I'm a kettlebell guy. I've
Yeah.
had a million people send me this. I cry every time.
Yeah,
It's amazing. A 60-second video.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So,
Yeah. But the key component to any story is conflict. So this is a screenwriting topic, I guess. So when you sit down to write a story, one of the first questions you're going to ask is, what is the conflict? And a lot of it, you know, you follow the hero's journey or whatever, but the hero's journey is not successful unless there's conflict. And the hero is inherently flawed anyways, right? Because you have to tell a good story, you have to see how that hero overcomes that conflict. And a lot of times that conflict can be embodied in another character, the antagonist. So I don't know what the point I was making, but
no, it is true. Yeah. No, it's because everybody
So-
wants to have a good idea of like a good person, but if there's no conflict in there, no resolve, and you see that fall flat when the conflict isn't really that powerful.
Yeah.
And that's often when stories fall flat.
Right. And I think the point I was trying to make is, you know, in our world, in our reality, we're facing a lot of conflict. And what we don't realize, and this is where I was talking about the ecosystem, is that there's organizations and companies and institutions out there keeping us together. You know, when you start to see those industries get diminished, where we're starting to see it now, they're losing funding and all that. We're losing the safety net of our communities. So more than ever, we need to be telling these stories of the people making a difference, going up against the conflicts that we are experiencing in our communities, whether it's homelessness or drug addiction or abuse or the environment. It's all going to come back to us. And so it's very important that we tell these stories now.
Yeah, I love it. So, Jon, this has been awesome. I love hearing about your work. I have some rapid fire questions I want to close out with you on. It starts kind of easy,
Just
and then
gonna
it gets
check the mic real quick. Hello? Okay, good. We're recording.
Yeah, so we just got some rapid fires that we'll just close out here, just to
Sure.
roll them. They start pretty easy, and then we'll get a little bit more existential and deep from here. So, window or aisle seat?
Aisle for sure. I need to stretch, and I like access to the bathroom if I need it.
Exactly. I don't know how people go window.
Yeah.
Early riser or night owl?
This one's a tricky one for me because I think all my life I've been a night owl, but when I started having kids, I became an early riser.
Early riser.
So my answer is, if it's dark outside, I'm the most productive.
There it is. Right. Do you have is there a favorite hour of the day?
So I really like 5 a.m. because it's kind of like the world hasn't started yet. And I'm kind of by myself. It's quiet. I feel like I can be the most creative at that time. I like to meditate. But yeah, it's just a good time just to focus on myself before the world starts to stir.
I get it. It's a good one. Beach or mountains?
Mountains. Although we are going to the beach for vacation, but you know, my wife loves the beach, and I like it too. I like some beaches. We're going to Hawaii, so and I love Hawaii.
That's a different beach. Yeah,
it's a different beach. But yeah, and I've been to all of the beaches all over the world, and there's something different about Hawaii. But if I had my choice, mountains. I grew up. My grandfather had 10 acres of land out in western New York, so a lot of my childhood was running around in woods and
beautiful,
playing in creeks and catching frogs and snakes, and I feel a lot of comfort and soothing to my soul.
I love it. That's great. What is the best? There's a couple movie things in here. What's the best place to sit in a movie theater?
So the best place to sit is in the center.
Center. Okay.
So because you're getting optimal sound, the sound's coming from behind you, all around you, and you're getting a great view of the picture. Personally,
Yeah.
I like to sit, if it's stadium seating, I like to sit at the front of the stadium seating behind the handicap because I could like to put my legs up on the railing.
Perfect. I know where you're going. Yep. What's a movie you've recommended the most to friends and family?
Yeah, that's a hard one. There's a few movies that I think are like pitch perfect, and my recommendations usually kind of cater to the individual.
Mm-hmm.
But a movie I absolutely love is Whiplash, about the drummer. I feel like it's one of those pitch perfect movies, and even the ending is kind of ambiguous, leaves you thinking.
Yeah. It's a great ending.
Yeah. So I love that movie. If it's more family friendly, I love the movie Soul by Pixar. Any Pixar movies, like,
Yeah.
they're like the master storytellers. But so there's something about Soul. I think it's almost not a kids movie because it's too.
Sure.
It's like too. It's almost too much for them to comprehend everything.
Right.
It's a lot going on there of this existential spiritual experience, but it's a beautiful film.
Yeah. Did you guys see The Wild Robot?
Yeah, that was great. I read the book with the.
Amazing.
So I read the book with my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went and saw the movie. Movie is great. Book's better, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that author, Peter something. I'm forgetting his name right now. He's great. All his books are awesome. But that series, The Wild Robot, just gives you an interesting perspective on technology and humanity. It's like,
Yeah.
here's like the least humane thing, but it has more humanity
I
than the
love
humans,
it.
right?
It was so fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's a movie you wish you could watch again for the first time?
I think Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Because that movie's so wild.
Is that the best Tarantino, do you think?
I think my favorite Tarantino film is Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
In terms of creating tension and technical storytelling, that movie is awesome. I really do admire him as a storyteller. Mm-hmm. He's in my opinion like the GOAT.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pulp Fiction was great because there was like surprise after surprise. Like you get to the next scene, you know you're gonna get something crazy and mm-hmm. wild out of that scene, but you don't know that it's coming.
Yeah.
So seeing that for the first time was mind blowing. Like going into the theater, like I didn't even, like it just
is revelatory.
Yeah, I remember that experience.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. Mount Rushmore dinner party. You can invite 3 people to go and sit down and have dinner with. Who would you invite?
So I like to laugh, and
okay.
So I definitely invite my grandfather Leo. He was the life of the party. He always joked around. He was extremely talented. He could sing, he could dance, he could play the drums, the fiddle. Like, he loved music, and he loved just like making people laugh.
Okay.
So I would invite him, and then I'd love to invite Dave Chappelle and Jon Stewart, because they're just like,
that'd be a good combo. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just like, they have this like really interesting satirical view mm-hmm. of the world that is hilarious, but also true.
Yeah.
I
like it. What's the best advice you ever received?
So, I have 2. Well, 3 actually. So I got really good advice from my father growing up. He was a big advocate, pushing me to. He would often say to me, "Be a leader, not a follower." So that was one thing. And then when I was in my artistic pursuit, still kind of am, but like I was applying for a job at Warner Brothers, and to go be an assistant to an executive at Warner Brothers. And in my interview, he's like, why do you want this job? I was like, well, I'm focusing on screenwriting. I feel like being part of the studio system will give me access to people that could advance my career. Plus, I can see the business, or see the industry from the business perspective. And he cut me off. He's like, this isn't the job for you. He's like, go drive a cab, go bartend, go do something else where you can focus on your craft. And I didn't pay attention to it as I went down the hall and got a job with his colleague. But at the end of the day, he was absolutely correct. Like, if you're going to be an artist, you need to design your life to be able to produce your craft.
Right.
You don't need a college education. You don't need to go get a job, or you don't need to go network and meet everybody in the industry. What you need is to produce your work. Mm-hmm. You have a big portfolio of work. People will take notice of that. Cream rises to the top. That's how your career starts. Then the last thing I learned as an adult, because as I'm finding out as an adult, you never stop learning. Mm-hmm. And actually, I feel like I need to be learning more now as an adult than when I was a kid. But the best piece of advice was, don't get ahead of yourself in your thinking. Because you start thinking ahead, that's where anxiety comes from. That's where depression gets from. That's where you start to get down on yourself. Focus on today. Focus on what's happening now. Focus on what you need to get done at this very moment. Mm-hmm. Those are 3 pieces of advice.
I love it. Those are beautiful.
Yeah.
All right, flipping the script, what's the worst advice that you ever got?
To try snowboarding for the first time down Whiteface.
Every time I ask this question, there always is like a physical injury thing that's involved, that's going on in it.
Fortunately, there was no injury.
I love it.
But I ended up hiking the entire mountain of Whiteface. And my friends that convinced me to do it had got 6 or 7 rides in before I met up with them at the lobby. Like, oh my God.
That's great.
But, yeah.
All right, last one. I always like to close with this. Who inspires you the most in your life?
Right now, my wife. My wife inspires me the most. Yeah. She's just like, she taught me the true meaning of love. You know, get emotional.
I love it.
But yeah, so she encourages me. She believes in me. She sacrifices a lot for the family. She's very talented in what she does. She's a therapist, and she's a licensed social worker. But she just has this ability to connect with people on such a deep level very quickly. And she's the nicest person I ever met. Like, she's so nice that when people first meet her, they think she's disingenuous. Mm-hmm. But when they get to know her, they're like, wow, she's for real.
Yeah.
And you know, being the fact that she's my partner, and I just feel very blessed. Mm-hmm. But she inspires me, and she inspires me to do the things that I want to do in life. Yeah.
That's great. Jon Dorflinger. Jon, I really appreciate the conversation, but the work that you're doing. I'm always fascinated by talking with people in creation and who've made it a vocation and really gone to that next step because of the things that they learn from not just the crazy side of the chaos, but also the order and the structure that comes with putting things like this into perspective, and hearing the journey that you've been on and getting to know you about the work that you've done in your life and now what you're doing to help people create their own stories, I think is so important and it's so valuable. So I really appreciate it. Where can people go and check out more of the work that you're doing?
Yeah, come to lightitup.media to see my website, and you can kind of get a feel of the kind of work I do. And yeah, if you're out there with trying to spearhead a mission and make a difference in the world. I want to help you tell your story. So let's work together and light it up.
I love it. That's great. Jon, thank you so much. Appreciate
you.
it. Listeners, thank you so much. Connect on the next one. Peace.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope you got some great value from this episode and a little more insight into some inspiring work happening right in this town. If you want to know more about our guests' work and check out more of what they are doing, please click on the links in the show notes below. And along with that, check out the direct link to 5-Minute Mindset. This is a 5-minute video that gives you the 2 best practices that you can do every day in 5 minutes that will create a major impact in your mental strength and resilience. If you are on your own mission to become physically and mentally stronger, these practices will be a serious game changer for you. Seriously. Thank you again for joining me today. I'll see you on the next one.